Hey everybody, Max Master here, back with Marvel Heroes. Now, as promised, got Human Torch up here, and he's been through his level 52 review, and unlike Daredevil, he really hasn't changed too much. They upped his damage a little bit, slowed him down a little bit, and they added a couple of different abilities. Um, they're really not too much, though. First, just going over his skills or his stats at level 60. You can see you'll be pretty fast. You have a lot of energy, or a lot of speed, and a lot of energy. I have +1 speed, so actually you will be at amazing. You won't be at unearthly, but you'll also be at amazing energy, and you'll be at excellent intellect because I have +1 intellect core as well. So that's where that's coming from. I don't think there's any other strangeness going on, because I don't got anything else that really does anything. I only have his boots, and yeah, they just beef up his range at max range, which is good, and his radius abilities, which is good also. So for his skills, the new ones really are going to be bouncing fireballs becoming a new basic attack. And they're pretty interesting. As you can see, I put points into it. And as you can see, it will fill your screen. And wherever they hit, they explode. So they're a nice new addition to a basic attack. As far as this whole Burning Bravado side is, nothing else has changed. Damage has increased. On Heroic Hothead, thermal intensity has changed. They put standard damage rating against burning targets, so you almost have like a blinding brazier of Balthak built into you. And then when you are standing in a fire dot area, you do energy damage. You get extra damage rating, and then when you are hit by a melee attack, you do energy damage to the enemy. So that sounds very interesting. However, it's very, very bad. I'll tell you why. It's one of the first trap features of this whole build that they put through. I'd have to say this is probably the worst pass it's ever done so far. And I'll say this because, at first I said Miss Marvel was probably the worst pass. Even though she's a very strong character, they really didn't change too much. And again, with Human Torch, they didn't change much, but they're really trying to trap you into standing next to a boss. And going back to over here with 2 durability, 2 strength, 2 fighting, that's just the wrong idea. You want to be as far away from that boss as possible. And if it's a boss with a bubble, you just don't shoot your basic at it. Forget the basic. Because the Scorching Pyre goes through a bubble. The Scorching Wall will go through a bubble. That will be the build, basically. And everything else, you just wait. You just let the boss slowly burn down. You don't have to burn it down as fast as possible. You don't have to be the speed king that everybody else wants to be. Highly, highly overrated. It's much better to sit there and burn things far, far away than it is to sit on top of them and die all the time. And that's what everyone's complaining about right now. You're basically sitting on top of everything and dying everything. So that's why I say it's a trap skill, because it wants you to stand in your own fires. And where are you putting your fires? Where all the mobs are. So if you're going to stand in your own fire, you're going to drop a fire underneath you, far, far away, and underneath the mobs. Be smart about it. You don't have to stand in the fire the mobs are standing in. You can make fire underneath yourself. Use that to your advantage. Fiery uppercut, that's a trap skill yet again. They're trying to get you to stand next to the boss. It's a horrible idea with Human Torch. Flame On is the signature ability, which used to be the ability that nobody used to spec into to begin with. Don't waste your points on this ability. It's a great I'm in trouble, I need to get out of here now skill, because you can hit it, and as you can see, you get 50% movement speed for 10 seconds. You'll do kind of okay damage for something that's on a 30-second cooldown. Even when you put points into it, it's not a lot of damage at all. But it does leave burning trails that damage things and would kill trash and stuff, but it does nothing for a boss. However, if you activate it, you are standing in your own fire. Something to keep into mind to get an extra 450 damage rating. This is, again, another one of those trap skills. They want you to fire it off and run around in a circle around the boss and let those flames entice you into burning the boss. I think these will get up to around 10 or 12k a second, twice per second. That's joke damage. You're not casting anything. You're not doing anything. I mean, these bouncing fireballs are hitting for, on average, 2,700 times 4. I mean, not quite as good damage maybe, but this is only for 10 seconds, and you're running around the boss. It's not a good idea. Pyrokinetic Burst. This is an interesting skill. Yet again, a trap skill. It radiates waves of fire, damaging and burning nearby enemies. The longer you sustain the blaze, the deadlier it becomes. Basically, you hold the button down and you keep firing it off. It has a high attack speed, as you can see. Easily hits 5 attacks a second, and it costs 3 spirit. So the spirit goes up 1 for every time you shoot it off, and your damage goes up 10%. The damage doesn't get up too high. It gets up to about 6k with 20 points into it. And the radius is okay. And you got to stand next to the thing again, and you're standing still as a Human Torch with no fighting, no durability, and no strength to mitigate any kind of damage. You're also the Human Torch, and as of right now, I only have one of his uniques. I don't know about all of his uniques, but you're a 4-slot defense person. Luckily, we'll get into it, but one of your skills will buff up defense, and you become a 5-slot defense person because of the skill. But anyway, so you sit there and spam this, and you get 10% more damage, and it becomes more and more spirit. You'll be able to do that for, I don't know, a few seconds before you drain your mana out completely. And then Extreme Combustion. Not as bad as a trap skill. It's still a trap skill because it wants you to stand still and hold the button down for a couple seconds and fire it off and do some extra damage. The second part of the trap, or it's a 2-trap skill. One that it wants you to stand still for a few seconds to fire it off. The second part is it says it does 200% base damage if fully charged. That means that first energy damage where it says 74 to 1100 damage, that's the only one getting multiplied. The extra damage per burning target hit is not multiplied either. So you only get that first part multiplied by 200%. So it's actually not terrible, but I don't like those standstills, so it's not in my favorites repertoire anyways. And then going over to Fantastic Firebrand. Fuel for the Flames works for the same, except this one gives you some spirit, so you get some extra spirit to burn around. Not too bad. Fire Rejuvenation. People are liking this. It restores spirit and health on a 10-second cooldown, but it pulls off all the burning effects. I don't like that. It's the exact opposite of how I want to work. I consider it a trap skill yet again, because now you're standing next to everything, trying to get everything on fire, trying to get all your dots going, and then you get hurt, so you have to burn this to get rid of your dots. It just seems counterintuitive. Counterintuitive to stand next to the things that are hurting you. Counterintuitive to get hurt because you just can't get hurt. You're not a tank type character. You're the far exact opposite of what a tank kick type character is. Daredevil definitely takes much better damage than you do. And now you got to get rid of all your damage that you built up to restore the health because you had to stand next to things. It's just counterintuitive. It's a trap skill. Blazing Flight still does flight. Blazing Speed, they changed this around. This is now attack and movement speed with dodge rating. So if you want some dodge rating, go for it. But dodge still sucks because they nerfed it. So Cleansing Fire does the same thing. Crowd control immunity. And Protective Flames got yet a little buff, but yet another nerf. So instead of being 25%, it went from 50% damage negation to 25% negation. Now it's down to 20% damage mitigation. They want you to stand next to things, and they're pulling all your damage and mitigation away. I feel really sorry for all the Human Torch players that want to even try to play in the playstyle that they're making you. You have to fight against the development team. They really failed on what they were doing with this. This is a horrible, horrible idea. Unless you got a tank and they get taunt working, and then it's an excellent, excellent idea. You can totally maximize the whole stand next to everything and burn it down because you got somebody protecting you and taking all the aggravation. And you won't be aggravating everything because you're doing so much damage now and sitting next to it. But it does add defense rating, and this is where I'm saying you now become a 5 defense gear character. Instead of having 4 slots with defensive rating on it, you have 5, because if you look at your gear, your 5th slot is damage rating. Even though I'm using a level 32, yeah, I got really bad gear. The Human Torch had no luck. But if you look, it's 15% special item find, 15% rare item find. That's why I really can't find anything else of it. And it's +1 to all Burning Bravado. And if you look, Burning Bravado is a 3 of the 6 skills. So it's actually not a terrible piece. I could get higher damage rating, but I can't find anything with similar stats. So it's like a win-lose situation. I keep it for the farming capability of it. I'm not losing any defense on it. I'm just losing a little bit of damage, and that damage loss is being a little bit mitigated by that +1 to all ranks. It's a pretty broken piece. Low ranking, obviously unique, and then I found some level 60s with other characters. And this one's actually decent because it's got health and hit points and power duration and spirit, so it really backs them up pretty good. This one's okay. It'd be better if it had some health on there because I really need to get up to 15k health. Not any cores. All the cores are gone, so I don't have a core to put on, a level 60 core. I really would need a 25% hit point and spirit regeneration core with this guy desperately, level 60. So to get those hit point stats up there, this is only a 42 core. These stats would probably be double and at least put me at 15, maybe almost 16,000 hit points, and much, much more survivable. And that brings me into gear. A ring with hit points on it is what I went with. It got backed up with critical strike rating, which is great. Brutal strike rating I really didn't care about. That's that's just there. Really, hit points and crit rating was good. I didn't have a lot of crit rating, as you can see. I have it from the ring. But I'll get into my crit rating in just a second, though. I actually have it from other pieces. I have the Advanced Super Soldier Serum. I don't have a lot of hit points, and almost 2,000 of them are coming from this. Spirit regeneration is coming from this. One thing that people aren't noticing with this review is all your skills have gone up dramatically in spirit cost. You are seeing 24.4 because I actually have spirit cost reduction on a couple pieces reducing this. So Torch, even though he's got this little spirit buff, all your skills are costing tons of spirit. Let's see, homing flares, they aren't too bad, but at a rate of 7 per second times 3.5, you're spamming out 30 spirit a second easily on those. Scattering blaze, that's not too bad. It's only 13 spirit, but it's not really that great. Fallback blast, no one's going to use that. Incinerating blast, not too terrible at probably about 20 spirit a second before the cost deductions. Not too many people like those though. Even though channeled things like this are great for regular mobs and blues. And these also go through bubbles, so something to keep in mind. But look, the walls probably at a cost of 30 spirit. Scorching Pyres at a cost of 30 spirit now. That's just dramatic. I mean, it really prevents how much you can spam. That's, you know, giving me like, what, 13, 14 of these I can cast. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, your charge, 10 spirit, and that's at the reduction, so it's probably more like around 12 spirit. So that's kind of harsh. Very, very spirit heavily raised. He's not spirit friendly anymore, and that's at the energy rate, you know. He's supposed to be, I guess you don't get minus the spirit cost. Next one up. Power Prism Shard, obvious reasons. Primary damage source is from AoEs, so I'm getting plus 10 radius, 10% radius for area powers, especially the Scorching Pyre and the Scorching Wall. I'm also getting an 18% radius from the boots, so that's giving me 28 plus the 20 from Dr. Octopus is almost putting me at 50% extra size. So as you can see, that is at 1.5 to the regular size. It would be much, much smaller if I didn't have that, which is why I'm doing it at a cost of 30 spirit, or 25 spirit in this case. You're not going to be able to maintain the spell in X defenses or cosmic clears without the support of the spirit cost reduction of a Power Prism Shard and the size increase. Even though it's only 10%, it's nice. But look at that, that's 280 crit rating. That's going to back you up massively, along with the 310 crit rating from the Dr. Octopus. You just can't lose. Damage rating, area size. As far as I know, Torch is the only character in game that Blinding Brazier Balthak actually works on his own. Of course, you have to get something on fire before it hits, so your first hit is not buffed by this, but the second hit will be. So bosses and blues and yellows, where it counts and where you need it, is where it's going to happen. Very, very, very useful. A lot of people seem to think it works on Iron Man, but I've tested it, and it doesn't work on Iron Man. It works on the Torch. I've tested it on the dummies. Torch definitely gets the buff. Iron Man, at least as of last patch, didn't get the buff. Even though it looks like he sets things on fire, it's just not flagged as fire. And of course, we are doing massive AoE skills, and we get massive AoE damage from Pluvian Superconductor as well. So we're getting a real big punch out of this Blinding Brazier Balthak, and we're getting a nice big bonus from Pluvian Superconductor as well. So we're not neglecting our damage at all. We're actually beefing it up, and seeing how we're putting so much into the damage with those pieces, we can afford to lose a piece and get some health and get some spirit and spirit regeneration, because we will dump out this 500 spirit. It will happen. It'll happen very easily. Obviously, I'm going to the Relic of Lemuria. You're going to get hit. You're going to get hit hard. Everything's going to hit you hard. Trash is going to hit you hard. You can die from trash. I mean, that's because these stats absolutely suck. But without the Protective Flames, I'm at 26%. But if I turn it on, I go to 30%. Yes, you have to turn it on to get that defense rating. Kind of strange. I know it says passive, but it's not. And it's actually active. So that actually is pretty good. That does let you put a damage rating Euro on if you want to go for that. Or you can get some extra defense with an 800 defense Euro and back your really weak Torch up. I actually would recommend the defensive one. You can always use an offensive buff on him, or you can do the offensive and do a defensive buff on him. That's up to you. I would recommend doing one or the other at least, and I'm actually planning on doing a defensive buff, so you know, I'm going to reduce range damage by 7%. So, and get a whole bunch of other buffs as well. That's my plan, and that will help them out dramatically, because I plan on staying at range. I would not do anything to base yourself on staying at close range. Let's go do a terminal and show it in. Oh, That's going to be a long one, though. Well, maybe I can get a 60 Dr. Octopus medal. So I just make sure that it's up. So you see, you do more than enough damage to stay away. And it's actually kind of nice that you move slower. I like moving slower because then I don't get trapped by moving in way too close. And then I can set up traps for the enemies and let them run through the fire. And this is the homing, or not the homing, the bouncing fireballs. As you can see, the bouncing fireballs will fill up the screen and hit everything that's coming at you. They are very nice. They're great for a little trash. I really like them. Oh, I didn't even go through the build. Once I kill Dr. Octopus, I'll go back and I'll go through the build. I'm sorry. I got ahead. But this really shows bouncing fireballs in action. They wreak havoc. You can't rely on them for directed damage to say, hey, all 4 are going to hit. But you can rely at least 1 or 2 are going to hit. And when they hit, they explode. So they will hit multiple targets. They will stop at the first target hit. So if you're sitting on top of a boss, all 4 will hit. See? If the target that gets hit dies, the other balls don't blow up. So it's a very interesting fact that happens as well. Those guys should have gotten hit by that wall, but they didn't. I don't know why. So Doc, we want to get into one area and set up crisscross of walls. And just drop fire and run away from them. And if he hits you like that and moves you, he interrupts your complete cast. It's something to keep in mind. As you can see, having this wide arc range spam is awesome because you don't actually have to aim, you just have to kind of fire it in the direction. It will burn very well. I didn't get hit much. When you do get hit, you're going to get hurt. So, oh, I forgot it doesn't take you to the shield training room anymore. Kind of annoying. So, for the build, Indirect Fire. It's a direct copy of the old build, except some of the skills have changed. So what you're going to do is you're going to use Scorching Pyre. We're going to max that out. As you can see, it does really good damage, 7 to 10k right now for me, with another almost 13k a second burning on them, and then everything that's hit by them takes an extra 10% damage. I mean, this is massive damage getting pumped by the Scorching Pyre. Very, very, very good skill. Scorching Wall. This is awesome. It also deflects projectiles. You can use it very, very offensively and defensively, as well as set it up to make things run through it and try to shoot through it and block off all those shots. It also weakens enemies hit by it for quite a while. So even if they just move through it, like the boss moves out of it, they're dealing less damage to you. And that's huge because you get hit and you get hit hard. I know it looked real easy against Dr. Octopus, but that was a real easy Dr. Octopus. So it should have been easy. Anything serious, you're going to get hit hard. You don't want to get hit. Everybody's complaining about how soft he is. He's really soft. Best to stay far, far away. And that's why we use these too. They set up dots and they do damage over time. I say set up the walls in a cross, basically putting one up and then moving to a different direction and doing another. and the boss moves across, no matter where you go, the boss is moving along the wall. And especially because of our extra size radius, you'll take more and more damage. Basically the principle behind the walls. You're going to pump up thermal intensity. It's giving us extra damage against burning targets. And when we stand in fire, we actually do more damage as well. And then, of course, fuel for the flames. It's putting another dot on top of our dots. And it's giving us some extra spirit, so we'll take it. We have 2 spirit burning powers. We don't actually need a third. An interesting add-on could be homing flares if you're really looking for something to burn out. I don't feel a need for it. I feel more of a need to have the spirit around to actually be able to blazing charge all over the place away from the boss while I set up the scorching pyre and the fuel for the flames with scorching wall damage happening to it. And then as you saw, I bouncing fireballed into it. So you got to put points into bouncing fireballs. And the last thing you put points into is protective flames. That's because it's only absorbing 20% of the damage that's coming. That's 1 spirit for every 47 damage. So actually it's got to do 5 times that damage. So every 250 damage, basically you absorb 50 damage and lose 1 spirit. So it's very negligible on your spirit, and that's not going to burn spirit away. But make sure you have at least 1 point for blazing flight, blazing speed, and flame on. And basically flame on is really either you want to do some extra damage and get that 450 damage rating when standing in a dot fire, or oh my god, it's here, I'm out of spirit and I got to get away, I need that extra speed. And those are basically the 2 instances that's really handy. Or you're just running through Midtown and tons of stuff are falling you and you want it all to die, so it just melted. This is pretty much otherwise useless as a signature. The instant damage is okay, but you kind of have to be close to whatever it is when you activate it, and that's usually bad. But it's useful when you got to get away and you're using it as a, oh my god, I got to get away. So you're going to do some damage as well. Not terrible. And you leave a lingering trail, so at least you're doing damage as you're running away. And that's it. That's the build. That's how Indirect Fire works. Basically how it's always worked. It's a damage over time build. It allows you to stay far, far away, which is much, much more safer, especially now. As you see, you have no durability, strength, or fighting. You're going to get hit hard in higher content. So I hope it helps. Hope you guys enjoyed, and remember, stay away. Talk to you later.